Dr. Anirban Ganguly, Honorary Director, Shama Prasad Mukherjee Foundation, Suyash Pandey, Y20 Track Chair, Satyanarayan Swain, Advocate and President, Young Advocates, my senior colleagues at the bar, young advocates, not that my senior colleagues at the bar are not young, at least they are young at heart, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to remonstrate with Dr. Ganguly for saying that he thanks me for coming here. This platform, the Shama Prasad Mukherjee Foundation, is the most prestigious platform, and I am privileged to be invited as a guest speaker here. Secondly, I have to remonstrate with him on another thing. He says he's on the wrong side of youth. If he says that, then I belong to a schedule in the Antiquities Act. So I take strong objection to that statement. Now, in today's subject, there are two parallel tracks. One is about lawyers and societal transformation. And of course, youth. There's a second aspect to it. Youth in policy making and governance. On those two subjects, the Y20 subjects, I will leave to the very distinguished panel speakers. I will not interfere in their discussion, but I will talk on the other theme. And I'll come first to lawyers and societal transformation. Now, it is a measure of the sharp decline in the participation of lawyers in societal transformation that since 1948, when the 348 strong Constituent Assembly was constituted, 250 of its members consisted of lawyers. 250 out of 348. On the other hand, India's present parliament, which is the 17th in its history, the 17th parliament in India's history, only 4% of its total Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha members, that is 795 members, only 4% of them are lawyers. That galaxy of lawyers, the Constituent Assembly, consisted of some of the most eminent legal brains that this country has ever produced. The Indian Constitution that it produced was the most transformational charter for a nation and its society. It encompassed within its sweep citizens' human rights, structures and systems of governance at all levels, center, state, panchayat, the establishment of a hierarchy of courts, reservations for hitherto oppressed sections of society, center-state relations, and even the objectives of governance, something you never found in any other existing constitution at that time, the directive principles of state policy, which were the objectives of governance, the end goal for governance. In short, it was a document that was sui generis. I don't want to use Latin after the rebuke which Mr. Bhupendra Yadav has given, but it was unique. It was unique, the longest, the most detailed and comprehensive proclamation of how Indian society was to be ordered. The nation has not witnessed any intellectual output since then of such magnificence. The decline of the role of lawyers in public affairs was in some way natural. After all, India is an independent country now with universal suffrage. The legal profession is undoubtedly, in a sense, elitist, while universal adult suffrage and the ballot box is no respecter of elites, but elects to our various legislators grassroots leaders. We lawyers, with our specialized education and the very nature of our vocation, court hours, conferences, research, and attainment of excellence, both in knowledge and delivery, have very little time for the mass contact that public life requires. Of course, there are exceptions. Now, lawyers are the very fulcrum of our system of administration of justice. Those who appear for the state serve to strengthen and defend its policies in diverse spheres. Those who appear for private citizens or corporation against the state uphold the liberty of citizens, whether personal or proprietary. Even those who appear for private citizens inter se, amongst each other, serve to help in the adjudication of the rights and wrongs of a case, and sometimes even to settle issues outside court. In short, lawyers strive as officers of the court to serve justice. Our research and our submissions help judges in shaping the law and adjudicating disputes. In performing even that very limited role, though our actions may not appear transformational, we prevent lawlessness and we stabilize society. And there are those very rare moments in history when lawyers go beyond their everyday calling and serve the Constitution. The role of the bar just before and during the emergency will forever be recorded in the annals of Indian history. Almost to a man, the bar opposed the emergency and suppression of civil liberties that took place. Lawyers all over the country protested against the emergency. They filed pro bono habeas corpus petitions, free of charge, under the then draconian preventive detention law. I don't know how many of you now remember it, young advocates. It was the dreaded NISA law, the Maintenance of Internal Security, which became the most hated statute in the country at that time. Participated in seminars and rallies, even courted arrest, some being interned in jail, some escaping the clutches of law and continuing the battle for freedom in exile abroad. Since independence, that was the bar's most glorious moment. This brings me to the role of young lawyers in societal transformation. Now, you do not have to be a public interest or social justice lawyer to serve society. That is a luxury for those who can afford it, or for those whom ideology is more important than an earning. You serve society by serving your client so long as you serve them ethically. In doing so, you contribute to an ordered society, but ethics are paramount. 42 years ago, when I first commenced my legal career, the advice of my late father still rings in my ears. He said, "You lose your case, but son, don't lose your client. If you lose your client, don't lose the court. And if you lose even the court, do not lose your conscience." Losing your case and not losing your client entails the optimal amount of integrity and diligence. Your client should know that even though you lost his case, you did your best and performed with utmost integrity. You will find that he will retain you in an appeal and in other litigation which he may have. Never lose the court by harsh demeanor or words to please your client. Do not suppress judgments that are against you. Do not ever succumb to the temptation of tendering perjured statements or false documents. Most of all, and this may seem almost an axiomatic thing to say, almost something which is obvious, do not ever attempt to bribe a judge. In 42 years of my practice, I have traveled the length and breadth of this country in many high courts, many sessions courts, many district courts. There has mushroomed in several bars of this country a coterie of lawyers who are fixers. Their motto is to be a good lawyer, you need to know the law. But to be a great lawyer, you need to know the judge. Now, this practice has to be eradicated. Keeping the streams of justice pure is a paramount ethic for a lawyer. Honorable AG, I would have mentioned you, but you were in absentia, so I couldn't. But welcome, and thank you for gracing the occasion. And finally, if you find that a court is being unfair or perverse, if you feel the court itself is subverting the law, it is your duty to be courageous, to point this out in the most polite terms, and even critique such perversity when it appears in judgments. Like all citizens, and that is the last part of the advice I got when I started my practice, a lawyer's ultimate duty is to his conscience. Now, if you have it in you to be a reformer, then by all means take up public interest litigation. The judgments of our court are replete, they're full of instances of the finest law being laid down in PILs. Lawyering for social justice is the most soul-satisfying task for any lawyer and a dream for a young one. Only make sure that the PIL that you're handling is not publicity interest litigation, i.e., self-serving with no public interest, or that you are being briefed by someone in the PIL who is furthering private ends in the garb of public interest. Other ways you can serve society and even perhaps transform it is by doing pro bono litigation for the poor. We have a robust legal aid system for which you can sign up. If teaching exhilarates you, it is a great public cause. Law students benefit a great deal from lectures given by practicing lawyers. By being a part-time teacher even, you can enhance standards of legal education, contribute in making better lawyers, and thereby serve society. You can also serve society by taking recourse to writing articles on the various platforms available, law journals, newspapers, and even social media. You can even, if you disagree with the particular judgment or believe it is contrary to law, pen an article criticizing it. The discussion of law outside the court room is as important as arguing it within the courts. Illumination about the law is not a monopoly of court arguments and judgments. Indeed, law's evolution is equally enhanced by academic discussions and articles in the public domain. You can even write letters to parliamentarians. They are the ones, after all, who make the law. Now, the other aspect of today's subject is about youth. I take it not necessarily only young lawyers, but youth in policy, but youth generally, not only lawyer youth, in policy making and governance. Now, towards this end, a lot of state governments, Haryana, Maharashtra, etc., have started fellowships that seek young individuals who could help support the implementation efforts of government in key areas. There are opportunities to work with political consultancies like IPAC, Samagra, or Fourth Line that cover areas ranging from election campaigning to constituency development. Even the Niti Aayog and union ministries have called for young professionals looking to make an impact and offer specific project-related opportunities lasting for a couple of years. One opportunity worth discussing more is the Prime Minister's Rural Development Fellowship. It is a 2-year program where fellows act as facilitators of development. They support the district administrative setup. It is an initiative run by the Ministry of Rural Development to engage young professionals with the district collectors and help ground-level institutions build capacity. In the parliamentary policy area, legislative assistance to members of parliament, LAMP, it's called LAMP, legislative assistance to members of parliament is a fellowship which is a unique chance for young Indians to be mentored by Indian parliamentarians for a period of 11 months. During the course of the program, the fellows work full time with an MP, providing research input to the MP's parliamentary interventions, and this requires following the parliamentary function and legislative developments diligently. The fellows, among other things, they brief MPs on important legislations, prepare questions, provide input for debates. Fellows also engage with policymakers and experts from diverse sectors through participation in several workshops on important policy and development issues to understand the space better. The fellowship invites applications on a yearly basis and is currently accepting application till August 2023. Now, fellowships and internships are excellent mediums to bridge the gap between the policy governance space and young India's aspirations. I would strongly recommend that you take up these initiatives if you are interested in societal transformation and in taking part in governance. In the end, my last advice to young lawyers would be that with the power of knowledge and the power of speech, you will be eminently successful lawyers. But if you add to those skills the calling of your heart and the voice of your conscience, you will be legendary lawyers. Thank you. Jai Hind.